The airport lounge was a blur of muted colors and hushed conversations. I sat alone, nursing a glass of whiskey that tasted like regret. My eyes kept drifting to the large digital clock on the wall, counting down the minutes until my flight. But time seemed to stretch out endlessly, each second a reminder of why I was here. I had been suspicious for weeks. The late-night calls, the secretive texts, the sudden work trips that always seemed to coincide with her boss's schedule. It was all too convenient, too perfect. And now, here I was, following them on this godforsaken trip, determined to catch them in the act. My phone buzzed in my pocket, snapping me out of my thoughts. I pulled it out, expecting another cryptic message from her, but it was just the airline confirming my seat assignment. I sighed and shoved the phone back into my pocket, glancing around the lounge again. That's when I saw them. They were standing by the coffee station, their heads close together as they laughed at something he had said. She looked radiant, her face glowing with happiness, something I hadn't seen in months. Her boss, a tall man with sharp features and an expensive suit, was leaning in, his hand resting casually on her lower back. The gesture was possessive, intimate, and it made my blood boil. "Hey, can you believe this?" she said, her voice carrying over the low hum of conversation. "He actually thinks we can close the deal without his input." Her boss chuckled, a low, rumbling sound that sent a shiver down my spine. "Well, let's show him just how wrong he is," he replied, his tone dripping with confidence. She smiled up at him, her eyes sparkling with admiration. "You're so good at this," she said, her voice soft and admiring. "I don't know what I'd do without you." His hand slid down to her hip, pulling her closer. "You won't have to find out," he murmured, his lips brushing against her ear. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. How could she do this to me? How could she stand there, flirting with him right in front of me, as if I didn't exist? Anger surged through me, hot and blinding, and I felt my resolve hardening. I wasn't going to let this go. I wasn't going to let them get away with this. I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. They both turned to look at me, their expressions shifting from surprise to guilt in an instant. Her eyes widened, and she took a step back, her hand flying to her mouth. "John, what are you doing here?" she stammered, her voice trembling. I walked towards them, my steps measured and deliberate. "What am I doing here?" I repeated, my voice cold and hard. "I could ask you the same thing." Her boss stepped forward, placing himself between us. "Look, John, this isn't what it looks like," he said, his tone smooth and placating. "Isn't it?" I shot back, my eyes blazing, "because it sure as hell looks like my wife is cheating on me with her boss." Her face paled, and she shook her head vehemently. "No, John, it's not like that. We were just talking about work." "Talking about work," I echoed, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "With your hands all over each other?" Her boss bristled, his expression darkening. "Listen, John, I think you need to calm down and take a step back. This is none of your business." "None of my business?" I roared, my voice echoing off the walls. "This is my marriage you're screwing with." People around us began to stare, their conversations halting as they watched the confrontation unfold. I could feel the weight of their gazes, but I didn't care. All I could see was the betrayal in her eyes, the way she clung to him like he was her lifeline. "John, please," she begged, tears welling up in her eyes. "Just listen to me." "Why should I?" I snapped, my voice raw with pain. "After everything you've done, why should I listen to anything you have to say?" Her boss stepped closer, His jaw set in determination. "John, you need to leave. Now." I glared at him, my fists clenching and unclenching at my sides. "Or what? You'll make me?" The tension between us was palpable, the air thick with unspoken threats. I could see the anger simmering in his eyes, the way he was itching for a fight, but I wasn't backing down. Not this time. "John," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Please, just go home. We can talk about this later." "Later?" I scoffed, shaking my head. "There's nothing left to talk about." Her boss took another step forward, his body tense and ready. I said, "Leave." I met his gaze, my own eyes burning with defiance. "Make me." The words hung in the air, heavy with tension. For a moment, no one moved, the world holding its breath. Then, without warning, he lunged at me, his fist connecting with my jaw in a sickening crunch. Pain exploded across my face, and I stumbled back, my vision swimming, but I wasn't going down without a fight. I swung my arm out, catching him in the ribs with a solid punch. He grunted in pain, but didn't back down, coming at me again with renewed fury. We grappled, our bodies slamming into each other as we fought for dominance. People around us screamed and scrambled to get out of the way, but I barely noticed. All I could focus on was the rage boiling inside me, the need to make him pay for what he had done. "Stop it!" she cried, trying to pull us apart. "Please, stop." But neither of us listened. We were too consumed by our anger, too blinded by our need to hurt each other. Fists flew, punches landed, and the world around us faded into a blur of pain and fury. And then, just as suddenly as it had started, it was over. We were both panting, bruised and battered, our bodies aching from the exertion. Her boss staggered back, clutching his side, while I wiped the blood from my lip, my chest heaving with exertion. "John," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Please, just go." I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time since the fight had started. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with fear and uncertainty, and for a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then I remembered why I was here, what I had seen, and the anger came rushing back. "No," I said, my voice firm, "not until I get some answers." Her boss straightened up, his expression grim. "You're not going to get anything from her, John. Leave now, or things are going to get a lot worse." I stared at him, my heart pounding in my chest. I knew he was right. I knew that continuing this fight would only lead to more pain, more damage, but I couldn't walk away. Not yet. "Fine," I said, my voice tight, "but this isn't over." He nodded, his eyes never leaving mine. "No, it's not." I turned and walked away, my legs feeling like lead. As I pushed through the crowd, I could feel their eyes on me, their whispers following me like a shadow, but I didn't care. All I could think about was the betrayal I had witnessed, the way she had looked at him, the way she had touched him. And as I reached the exit, I knew one thing for certain: I wasn't going to let this go. Not ever.